Okay, so let's talk about this fly and the materials. The body again is nothing more than 8/0 thread. Okay, for the tail, we're going to use a little brown Zelon, and this is a tail shuck, little brown Zelon, and some olive CDC. Okay, then for the wing, we're going to use some dun dyed cow elk for the wing, and then for the thorax, it's nothing more than an olive fine dubbing. And if you don't have any olive, you can use mine. If you're going to use this, I would say just pulling off some of them and kind of clip it, because these are, let me show you, these are very long fibers. Well, it is. See, George? The Spectrum. They're all very long fibers, and so if you're going to use this, you need to take it and clip it so that it's functional. Okay? Otherwise, it becomes unfunctional.
Are we using green thread?
And we're using, right, you're going to, so what we're going to do on this one is we're using this is olive thread. It's going to be our body and our base for a wing. So we're going to start where our wing is going to end. We're going to wrap it back 5 or 6 turns. Okay? Just to get a base down. Bring our thread back up to the front. At this point, we're going to grab our elk.
Which green do I want?
Why did you decide to use elk instead of
Deer.
deer?
I like the floatability of the elk and the fact that the elk will take a lot more beating than deer. Deer falls apart quick. It's a lot more fragile than elk. So I like the elk. Okay. So we're going to grab a pencil of elk. We're going to clean all the underfur out of it.
I have some.
Okay. We're going to then stack it to get our tips nice and even. We're going to drop it in our hair stacker. Now here's something really important about tying on this. We're going to tie this in with our wing tips pointing forward, because we're going to point them forward and then stand them up, because I want the bulk of the tie-in body to be behind the wing, not in front of the wing. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hair stacker, and after I've stacked it, I'm going to pull off my bottom going to my right towards the eye of the hook, and then I'm going to grab my elk, or hair if you would, with my hand. Okay? I've got one upside down. There we go. Okay. Now I want my wing to be no longer than the shank length of the shaft. So that's going to be too long. It's a little bit too long. I want to shorten it just a tad. There we go. There's my wing. I've got one fiber I don't like. 2 fibers I don't like. Come on, guys. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to lay that right on top. Now I'm pinching not only the hair, but I'm also going to pinch the hook shank. And this is really important. You have to pinch both the hair and then grab the hook shank and pinch it. Take a pinch wrap loose and then come, watch me. Watch my hand. My torque is in an upward direction. Can you see that? Another pinch wrap down, torque it up. Now I'm going to wrap towards the bend of the hook. But watch this. I'm going to wrap a whole bunch of wraps. What I'm trying to do at this point is compress the elk. Then I take most of the wraps off. Okay? Because I wanted to compress that elk. Where am I at here? Okay? And then I'm going to cut the butts.
So your tips are coming toward...
Tips are over the eye of the hook.
Right, okay.
And that's fun because I ripped it. There we go.
The opposite of a elk or caddis.
Right, and we'll show you how to stand the wing up in a second. So now I go back over. I'm going to go back over. There we go. Over the butts, tie those down. Okay. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to grab some of the brown Zelon and you only need just a few fibers of the brown Zealon. You don't need a whole wide strand, because again, this is an 18. So all you need is probably a third to a half of a strand of actual Zealon. Okay. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to tie it in right behind the tie-in point for my elk, and then actually run my thread all the way to the bend of the hook. Okay. And at this point, I'm going to trim it. Then I'm going to come back, grab my CDC. Now, the same technique we used with the CDC on the last one. Remember how I just took a few of the fibers off the butt? Or actually, you could take it anywhere along the feather that has some length. And you can see this feather. I can use both sides of this feather all the way up into where my fingers are holding it because they're too short. So I'm just going to go grab the CDC, strip off some CDC, pinch it again. I always like to clean off where I stripped it off of the stem, and tie it in, and wrap my thread in touching turns all the way back up to where I tied in my butts. Then I'm going to hold up my CDC. I'm going to cut my CDC just a bit shorter than my Zealon was. So can you see that? Can you see the Zealon? Oh, there's the bottom of there. The Zealon is to here. Here's the end of the Zealon right there. There's the end of my CDC. So this one's a little bit shorter, okay? And then you wrap the thread back up to the front of the body. This point, once I got it to the end of the butts for the wing, and I'm just going to take maybe 2 turns of thread, 1, 2, and I'm going to get to the back of my hair. Here's the trick about getting the hair to stand up. They talk a lot about building this dam when you're using them. You put this dam with this huge bundle of thread at the very front of it to get the hair to stand up. Watch how I get it to stand up with 3 turns of thread. 3. Watch. I grab a piece of hair, pull it back. I grab another group of hair, tie it down. I grab the last group of hair. Ooh, get out of there. There you go. Grab the last group of hair, pull it back, and I'll take 2 turns. Where's my wing? Isn't it standing straight up? Did I put 40 pounds of thread at the eye of the hook? The tendency was, and that was one of the tricks, they didn't understand how to get the hairs in. If you pull up the hair in small pieces, it stands up easier, stands up nicer. And you don't have that bulk. When you put that much thread at the head of the fly, the tendency is for the head to become heavier and the fly to ride nose down. Sometimes it'll land nose down if you have too much thread up there. Okay? So now that I've got my wing standing up, I'm going to take 1 turn of thread and get to the back of the wing. And at this point, I'm going to put in my dubbing. Yeah, this spectrum, like I said, you can use mine or your own, but the spectrum, if you don't trim it, it's just too long and it's not really dubbing, it's strands. Okay? And here's the tough part for some of you. This is going to be a very, if I can get it, come on, anyways. Just a very thin amount of dubbing. The tendency is to overdub. If this was a different color thread, I would be just changing the color. Can you see how thin that dubbing is? Can you see that? Mm-hmm. Everybody remember, that's all you need. Okay? You're going to take a turn of the dubbing at the back, and you're going to run it to the front, up to the eye, and then the head. Yep, I need a little bit more dubbing up at the eye. I just noticed that. I ran out of it. Again, these are just wisps of dubbing. I mean, don't put too much, because that just makes an ugly fly. And again, most mayflies, I'll tell you this right now, that we tie, the fly itself is actually thinner than a hook shank. So if you sit there and make it thicker, you've made it too thick. And then once you've got your dubbing up near the eye, your whip finish. Remember, each turn went from here, 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 here. I went up towards the eye of the hook with the whip finish. Draw down my whip. Again, my torque is that way, right parallel to the hook shank.
Against the turns.
I'm pulling in that direction with my finger. Here's the eye of the hook. My torque is behind.
Yeah, your turn
What?
came
See my
towards the
hand?
eye and your
See my
your
hand?
torque
My
came
hand's
back.
going backwards. Can you see this?
Yep.
That's the direction of the torque. I'm going that way with torque. Once I've got it torqued, I can just touch it with my scissors to cut it. And at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to spread out the wing. I'm going to turn it to me for a second so I can see. We're making... Now the wing is following, let me see if I can you see that? Is it?
No. The camera's right in front of it.
About 180 degrees.
Oh, down low. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, what I was trying to do was turn it. Let me just take it out here and turn it to you. You're trying to make a complete 180 degree cycle of the hair. Can you see that now? The hair starts here, half circle to the other end. And that's all you need. That becomes the sparkle done, and this happens to be a Betis. This style of tying, remember this is a style of tying, it's not the fly. When you want, if you wanted to do a sparkle done March brown, you would do that with brownish threads or maybe a little bit of hare's ear. If you wanted to do a gray drake in the same fashion, you would use the grays. If you wanted a green drake, it would be a bigger. Again, this is a concept of how to tie a fly. It's not this fly only. And too many people make the mistake that they don't understand that this is a technique and a style, not the fly.
What was your name for this fly?
This is called a sparkle dun, but the fly is the Betis. That's why it's 18 or smaller. But it's a sparkle dun, and sparkle duns have been around, gosh, 25 years, George? Maybe. They float well because that half circle of hair gives it a nice pontoon buoyance effect, plus the hair standing straight up imitates the wing, so the ones off to the sides are the legs, the one straight up is the wing, and then you've got the trailing shuck, which is somewhat of an emerger style. Yeah.
So the length of the hair standing up is
One hook shank length. It should be the
a
same
hook shank.
length.
Okay, not gap. Okay.
No, the hook
So it
shank.
looks longer than the gap, but hook shank. Okay, got it.
There it is.
Yep.
There it is. Again, remember, these are a great set of dividers. If you need to decide, how close am I, instead of trying to go buy a second set of dividers, you're sitting with them in your hand. So you
I like
can
using
sit
it
there.
closed, so I can't adjust it.
Yeah. So the whole point is, again, another simpleton fly. It was very simple, as easy as the other one. Thread is the main part of the body. And the dubbing, again, you can see how thin. Let me turn this over. You can see the bottom, how thin my dubbing is. The thorax of these insects are not much bigger than what you're seeing there. We tend to over-tie everything we do. We think because it's bigger, it's going to be better. It's not.
About hundreds of fish on the sparkle.
Oh.
Sparkle.
Absolutely. This is, this style is for dry fly on moving water. You could tie the same style of fly exactly with gray, and you got calabatus. In fact, at 18s and 16 in there, calabatus. So now you got a stillwater fly with the same use.
Two fly, man.
Only thing you've done is change the colors, but you haven't changed how you tie the fly.
You tie it without the Z-line and with a regular tail and comparative.
You could do, yep. If you did a floating tail, it would be comparative. But if the CDC and the Zegon, it makes it more of an emerger style. Or shuck is what this is representing back here. This is representing the shuck of a Batis nymph, which is basically the body of a Batis nymph. The nymph itself is a brownish nymph. That's why pheasant tails work so well, because a pheasant tail tends to represent like a Batis nymph. There's a couple other PMDs, quite a few of the dry flies have a very similar coloration of a nymph. That's why pheasant tails work so well. But with your Batis, they're basically a brown body nymph with a olive green dry fly body, and that's what the shuck is representing, and that's what we're representing with the olive green here. It's that emerger stuck in the film. Okay.